This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Always enjoy talking with Alyssa Orange from Pig Trail Nation, and that goes for either on or off the air. Alyssa, we appreciate you moving over to Tuesdays today and joining us here in hour number 3. How's it going today?
Hey, anytime, you guys. I would love to talk to you. We'll make it work.
Cool.
It's good to be with you. Doing well.
So practice today. It was practice 5, morning practice. Kenny Guyton and the wide receivers spoke afterwards. What'd you see? What'd you hear?
Yeah, I think this is maybe one of the most excited group that I think people are looking forward to talking to, just because of how physically it's changed. I mean, just looking at those guys, and there's a lot of them, they're just tall. And I thought about going through each SEC school in the West and looking at how tall they are, and I got halfway through A&M, and I was like, this is exhausting. This is a lot of guys. But I think if you were to actually do that, Arkansas might have one of the tallest wide receiver rooms in the SEC West right now, because you added a lot of height. You got, Andrew Armstrong, who's, over 6 foot. Davion Dozier, who's been really impressive, is over 6 foot. You've got a lot of talent in Isaiah Tesla, who's walked in, caught some really nice balls today. And then Isaiah Satenya, who is the Fayetteville kid that everyone has been high on, looking to get him some reps, also caught some pretty good balls from KJ today, too. So I think that group is going to be one of the most exciting to see and maybe the most talented top to bottom that Sam Pittman has had. And when you talk to Kenny Guyton and you look at all the transfers, today he was like, look, guys, look around this room. How many returners do I have? Mm-hmm. Exactly. Step up, make some plays, and see if you can find yourself on the field. So I'm really looking to specifically Davion Dozier, who's the freshman from Alabama, to make a splash. I really like Andrew Armstrong. He's from Texas A&M Commerce, and that might throw some people off because it's a school not a lot of people are familiar with. I believe they're in the Southland Conference, if I can remember from my old Abilene Christian days. But I think he's going to be really, really good, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do.
I think the position groups we've heard in the last 2 days, defensive backs and wide receiver, is a reason that Arkansas is picked 5th in the SEC West instead of picked 3rd or 4th in the SEC West. And it's not to insult the players at those positions. It's just no one's quite sure what to expect. I think when you look at those voters, maybe you have an expectation a little bit more in the secondary just because there's a little more experience of guys that have played major Division I football. But I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about it. When you know what you have at quarterback, when you know what you have at running back, and yeah, the offensive line might be one of those question marks and all that. But I think top of the list for people is defensive back and wide receiver. So that's made yesterday and today that much more interesting.
It really has. And we talked to Darren Wilson yesterday. Darren Wilson, who is the secondaries coach, working alongside Marcus Woodson, who is that DB defensive coordinator. And it was really interesting how those two are really just in sync as one voice. And that's the way that they're going about this season, where if I'm talking, Marcus Woodson is like, we're the same voice regardless of who's talking. Or if I'm going to be on the field and Coach Woodson's upstairs or vice versa, they're hearing one clear message. And communication has been a big stress point with that. And we've seen over the past couple of years, the biggest issue was when guys weren't communicating and getting in the right position pre-snap to have success. And you saw in a guy like Jalen Catalon who could orchestrate that kind of stuff, tell people where to be. Bumper Poole was kind of a voice like that, even though he was with the linebackers and just getting people lined up. And I think Hudson Clark can be that guy. I know that he's gotten a lot thrown at him and a lot of criticism, some of it warranted, some of it not so much. But his body is different. He's tackling better because he's stronger. He's got more weight on him so he can get guys down to the ground. I think that was his biggest issue was he's there and he can hold on, but he's not taking guys to the ground. And I think this added weight he's put on and this muscle he's put on is going to make him a different Hudson Clark than we've seen in the past. And then you had guys, like Snacks, who comes over from Baylor that people are really excited to see. what he can do back there in the secondary too. Like, where is Malik Chavis going to play? So there's a lot of questions with both groups, the wide receivers and the DBs, but it's also exciting to see how it all works itself out.
Yeah, Alyssa, I'm a Hudson Clark fan as well. So I was looking at 2021, our passing defense, we ranked 41st. Last year we were 130th. So that's kind of the key. Do you think that between our offense and defense, if our defense can be anywhere close to that 2022 defense, that we have a chance to win 8-9 games this year?
Yeah, I think you can only go up. So you can't get worse in pass defense. But you can go up. And I think that the voices back there in the secondary with Coach Woodson and Coach Wilson are going to really change the way that this DB room is going to look. And, Coach Woodson comes from FSU. I have clearly paid attention to what they've done in their secondary. And when he got there, they were one of the worst. And then they were the best pass defense in the SEC and up there in the nation, or in the ACC and up there in the nation. This is me foreshadowing that FSU's coming to the SEC. Sorry. But they were really good. So I know that he's been able to turn secondaries and stuff like that around. Can he do it in a year? We're about to find out.
Who else you want to hear from? You've heard from Coach Pittman, Jimmy Smith and the running backs, Scott Fountain and some special teams, and the two position groups we've talked about. Who else is top of mind? I know you're going to hear from Coach Pittman Thursday, Deke Adams on the defensive line Friday. What is another position that you think is really interesting to hear about over the next week or so?
I think he's talking either Monday or Tuesday. So you can. I think it's Monday if I can memorize visualize the calendar in my head. Is Morgan Turner?
That's Monday.
The tight ends coach.
Monday.
Really excited to hear what he has to say. One, because I think this might be maybe the second time we've gotten to talk to him. And I want to see just how he trusts his room. You have Nathan Bax in that room, and that's really the only guy we know anything about. We know a little about Ty Washington because we saw him catch a touchdown pass against Liberty last year, but that was really the only game he got to play in. He didn't play at all season long. And then you add a guy in a freshman in Luke Haas, but it's a trust thing. It's a developmental thing with that room, and we know how much Dan Enos wants to use him in his offense, but can he trust them to execute? And so I'm really excited to see what he has to say about how his room has come along under Dan Enos' offense.
All right, I got to ask you about Florida State and football and the ACC. You're our resident Florida State person here. I'm reading... Yeah. There's a term that I think we need to get to know a little bit, probably over the next couple of weeks. It's called sovereign immunity. I think it's the idea that a state institution doesn't necessarily, it can't necessarily be sued by an entity like the ACC if the state government makes them exempt for it. And an interesting part of the grant of rights contract for the ACC, it does not specify a state that will govern this contract. When you look at any contract you sign to work, usually that involves this contract will be governed under this state's laws. It doesn't say that in the grant of rights. So that there is potentially a little wedge for Florida State and Clemson to get out of the ACC. That will kill the ACC. I truly do see this happening sometime soon. Florida State their Board of Regents basically told us that they were going to get out of the ACC. Yeah. They just didn't say how they were going to do it. I think this is how it's done.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that this is something to be watched carefully because they are basically sending a message to all the other conferences in college football that call us, we're ready to talk. Because before, it's, we don't know how to get out of this. Well, now we know how to get out of the ACC and this, $30 million TV contract or whatever that we have, or however much. It's like $300 million. It's something crazy. But now it's basically an open invitation to call us, let's talk. But I'm also really interested, and I don't know exactly how it would work in the grand scheme of things, but I would not be surprised if they don't explore going independent. Being like what Notre Dame is in the ACC right now, where Notre Dame football is an independent and all of their other sports play in the ACC. But in order to do that, they have a contract with the ACC that says, okay, we will play 6 ACC teams for football, and then we get to schedule whatever we want to, and that's how we were able to join the conference. Does FSU explore saying, okay, what if football was independent and nothing else? Everything else stayed in the ACC. How would that look? I mean, are you kind of, muddying the waters there? Should you just have a clean cut and just leave and go somewhere else? But it's really interesting down in Tallahassee. But they sent a clear message, and Drew Weatherford, who was part of their board of regents, who was the quarterback when I was in school, was like, it's not a matter of if but when. So we'll see how this all plays out.
What do you think of college sports these days, Alyssa? It's not the college sports of 2 weeks ago, much less 2 or 3 years ago. It's an ever-changing landscape. It's going to continue to change. Maybe that's just life, but man, this does not look like what I remember thinking college sports was like.
It is a little heartbreaking. And I have to say that, you look at everyone who is tearing apart all these historic games that we're so used to. And, you think about maybe, is that how some Arkansas fans felt when Arkansas left, the old Southwest Conference and joined the SEC, knowing that Texas wasn't going to be on the schedule anymore? Is that gut feeling a little bit of just kind of sadness and nostalgia for what was, because those things matter to fans, and we're seeing that money is more important to the institution. So I feel like a lot of traditions getting thrown out the window, and you really hate to see that.
Yeah, it's nuts. Did I see a reason to celebrate on Sunday, August 6th? Yeah.
How about it? 7 years ago, Saul decided to marry me. So
he's a lucky guy, Alyssa. You're lucky too. And August 6th is a good day. That's my mom's birthday too. And the day before was my sister's anniversary. So August 5th and 6th.
August is a good month. August is a good month. My birthday's in a few weeks. My son's birthday's in a few weeks too. So it's a good month for us, August.
Yeah, go figure. 2 people that cover college football like it's their life had a wedding in early August just before camp started. That's called planning.
If you really want to know, we had to get married then because of football, and it was the day before media day, and so my former boss just go get married, can't miss camp. So got married, and then obviously went on our honeymoon for a week, and we're back. But yeah, I mean, it revolved around you got to get married at the beginning of August, or we got to wait till January of the following year. So it dictated how things went for us, but it was fine.
What was it your boss said again? I couldn't quite make that out. Okay, that's what I thought it was. All right, you got it right. Alyssa.
BetOnline is your #1 source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.